Greetings. In this video we highlight some of the most common mistakes made by, for example, developers or farmers immediately upon receiving their environmental authorization, and then we provide a profoundly simple power tip at the end of the video to help avoid making these silly mistakes before even getting started with construction. Welcome. My name is Sean McGregor of Ecoleges Environmental Consultants based in Mpumalanga, South Africa. And we're on a mission to empower all South Africans to protect their environment through the correct interpretation and application of our environmental legislation. So if you want to learn how our environmental law applies to you and how to avoid accidentally triggering a listed activity or a water use without the required authorization and avoid potential prosecution or penalties, or if you simply want to increase the internal capacity of your company by increasing the skills and knowledge of your staff to make environmentally responsible decisions without having to rely solely on external consultants, then you'll want to subscribe to this channel. You can subscribe by swiping your mouse over the logo to the bottom right hand side of your screen. Don't forget to click on the bell notification icon so that you can be notified the moment we upload a new video. And these educational videos are for free, so we would really appreciate your support by simply liking the video if you or others you know can benefit from them. Thank you. So let's get started. This is our first series. The series is on most common recurring non-compliances, and the non-compliances explained in this first video, or the title of the video, is failure to notify the department and appoint an ECO. But first, I want to give you some background. The National Department of Environmental Affairs has identified listed activities. No one can commence with a listed activity without first having applied for and received an environmental authorization, which looks something like this. The environmental authorization is received from the competent authority. It can be the Minister or the National Department of Environmental Affairs. However, it is most often the MEC responsible for environmental affairs within your province. In this example, it was prepared by the Mpumalanga Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs. Quite a mouthful, the abbreviation is MDADLIA. Now, this authorization for a listed activity or listed activities is subject to the conditions contained in the authorization. And they come with a whack of conditions. In this case, there are over 61. Now, here in Mpumalanga, the two conditions that are most often not complied with include failure to notify the department of one's intention to commence with construction and the appointment of an environmental control officer or ECO. I'm going to show you those conditions inside this authorization now. As I mentioned earlier, this particular environmental authorization was prepared by the Mpumalanga Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs. Now, all the environmental authorizations are relatively similar. I suspect they use a standard template. The authorizations will vary depending on the listed activity or activities that have been authorized and on the findings from the basic or environmental impact assessment. Now, I suspect each competent authority or province is likely to have their own standard template. Now, the condition that requires the holder of this authorization to notify the department of the date on which construction will commence is contained on page 7, and it is numbered 3.28. Now, the numbering will vary depending on the number of conditions that have been incorporated into the environmental authorization. The condition reads, at least 14 days written notice must be given to the department that the activity will commence. The notice must include a date on which it is anticipated that the activity will commence and must include the name and contact details of the appointed ECO or environmental control officer. At least 14 days, that is 2 weeks. Do not start counting the number of days from the day that you deliver the notice. You need to start counting from the following day. So if you deliver your notice on a Monday, you start counting from the Tuesday. If the 14-day falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a public holiday, you need to extend the period to the next day that is not a Saturday, Sunday, or public holiday. Similarly, if there is a public holiday within the time frame, you need to you need to extend your time frame by the same number of days as public holidays. Written notice, I suggest whatever you do, gather evidence or proof that you have notified the department. So you can use registered mail, you can hand deliver it, in which case then take a register along with you so that you can ask the recipient to acknowledge receipt with their signature. Alternatively, if you send your notice via email, request a read receipt, and you can also include in the body of your message a kind request for the recipient to acknowledge receipt of your email. I would also follow up with a phone call. Now, in this case, the department is the Provincial Department of Environmental Affairs in Mpumalanga. And the rest is self-explanatory. Okay. The condition relating to the appointment of an ECO is to be found on page 6 of the same environmental authorization, and it is number 3.24. Once again, this numbering will vary. The condition reads, the applicant, that is the holder of the environmental authorization, must appoint an independent environmental control officer or ECO that will have the responsibility of monitoring and reporting on compliance with the conditions of this environmental authorization, as well as monitoring and reporting on the implementation of the approved EMPR or Environmental Management Program. There is then a host of other sub-conditions relating to the roles and responsibility of the Environmental Control Officer. Now, 3.24.1 reads, the ECO must be appointed before commencement, and the department must be notified of such an appointment for communication purposes. You can notify the department in the same written notice as required in condition 3.28. Okay, just one more thing I'd like to highlight is this word here before Environmental Control Officer, the adjective independent. Okay, that means your Environmental Control Officer has to be independent of the contractor, independent of the holder of the authorization, which could be a developer or a farmer, and preferably independent of the environmental assessment practitioner whose environmental management program he is going or she is going to be auditing. Okay, and that's it. Now, the holder of an environmental authorization either chooses to ignore those conditions or, and I believe this is more likely the case, they just don't read them. It can take up to 9 months to receive an environmental authorization, and many projects have been delayed because the environmental authorization was issued late, or the project planners simply didn't take cognizance of the time that is needed to undertake an application for an environmental authorization by way of a basic assessment or an environmental impact assessment. So when the holder eventually receives his authorization, he hits the ground running. It's like someone receiving a driver's license. They get in their car and go, without taking cognizance of or being mindful of the conditions contained in the authorization. And many of those conditions are pre-construction conditions, meaning they need to be implemented before construction even starts. So, the power tip for this video: if you are the holder of an environmental authorization, we urge you to take the time to read it. But specifically search for those pre-construction conditions, those conditions that need to be implemented and fulfilled before construction even starts. Like simply notifying the department of the date on which you intend to commence with construction and appointing an environmental control officer. We hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching. If you joined the EMP and Incorsi tiers of our membership program, you will receive an additional video that dives deeper into typical pre-construction conditions and how to apply them. Otherwise, feel free to visit our website, and remember, if you did find value in this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, especially if you enjoyed this video. You will not want to miss the next video in the series. It covers another non-compliance, a commonly misunderstood listed activity that deals with the clearance of indigenous vegetation. See you there.